Good morning, everybody. It is Miss Anchors once again here for our professionals by Pathway Career Choice CTE February Career Exploration Month. And I'm here with Andrew Mohl, and he is a fleet manager for the U.S. government, which it sounds like there may be way more to that job than just a fleet manager. So I'm going to let Andrew introduce himself. Welcome, Andrew, and thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Katie. I'm glad to be able to join you and the Yelm High School students. Just a little bit about me. I spent 12 years in the U.S. Army. Right out of high school, I joined the U.S. Army and worked in Army transportation. Did everything from just driving a truck to managing a fleet of trucks and drivers training and education, and managing an actual vehicle fleet of sedans, trucks, buses, not the tactical type Army equipment. But my last couple of years of military service, that's what I worked in. While I was in the Army, I was able to get 2 different associate's degrees from Pierce College. I got a bachelor's in business management from St. Martin's, and then pursued a MBA from Thoreau University International. It's actually a online school, but it's the online version of a college in New York. And that was a great MBA program that worked for me. And then in 2006, I went to work for the General Services Administration, worked in actually commercial real estate, picking up leased office space and managing those lease contracts that typically ran for about 10 to 20 years. In 2017, I swapped back over into the fleet management side of the world. GSA actually has a fleet management portion with about 250,000 vehicles nationwide. And I manage the Vancouver Fleet Management Center and have about 8,300 vehicles across Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Northern Wyoming, and Northern California.
Really fast, Andrew. Did you say what GSA stood for, just in case so people know what that stands for? I don't know if I caught it or missed it or.
It's the General Services Administration. So GSA, I'll say it quick. It's easier to just say GSA, but we are the General Services Administration. The agency functions as the landlord and basically the supply management. We're like Walmart plus real estate for the whole entire federal government. So whatever any federal agency needs, we provide it, from pens and paper to computers to vehicles to office space. We own buildings, we lease buildings, we own cars and lease those to federal agencies for their use on a long-term basis. And then we put together contracts for supplies and things of that nature as well.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
One of the nice things about being a federal employee is I get a lot of opportunity to give back. So since 2006, I've been a coach and the franchise head coach for Yelm Tornado Youth Football and Cheer right here in Yelm. And then I've been the executive vice president for flag football for the Thurston County Youth Football League since 2008. So it's almost like a full-time second job. So that's about me.
I know my nephew plays for the Tumwater branch of that, and it's a big thing. And I think the kids have really missed it this year. And I'm sure you've missed not having that opportunity to reach out and help those youth this year too, as well.
Absolutely. And I'll forgive you for being a T-bird, or for him being a T-bird. That's
well,
okay.
That's where, I teach in Yelm. We have family, and I'm an Ole Bear, but I support everybody. So Andrew, what do you want to tell us about your job? So what's a day look like for you? Or what do you want to tell us?
The big thing is, I try and switch slides here. I'm going to skip through a couple slides. We are a nationwide organization, and they've got us split into 4 different zones. And I work in zone 4 over here on the West Coast. And but it is a nationwide aspect of things. So while my cars and vehicles are mainly in the Pacific Northwest, I do have some vehicles that are in Alaska, some that are in Hawaii, some that are down in Southern California, because let's face it, cars go wherever people need them to go. So while my customer might be based in Boise, Idaho, they might have to drive their car down into Las Vegas, Nevada for some of their work or some of the things that they've got going on. The other big thing is is, I'm going to skip that one, and I'm going to talk about the team that I manage. I've got fleet service representatives, so they handle everything about vehicles for a customer or for an agency. So if the U.S. Forest Service needs a pickup truck and they need it long term, they come to me and they say, "Hey, Andrew, I need a truck, and I need it to look like this, or this is what I'm going to do with this truck." And then I turn it over to my fleet service representatives. I've got 11 of them across the Northwest. And so they handle everything from ordering vehicles, managing the utilization of that vehicle, meaning how many miles it gets driven, or how long it stays assigned to that customer, and we can bounce it around, or help an agency rotate a vehicle so it doesn't get used too much and it doesn't get used too little. We look for that Goldilocks zone of using vehicles just right. They help manage expenses, because one of the things that you're going to have to do if you own a vehicle for 5, 7, 10 years, you got to put new tires on it. You got to put new brakes on it. And you might run into an accident, a fender bender, or somebody might run into you. And so they handle the expenses associated with getting those vehicles, and then the billing that's associated with it, to make sure that the customers are actually paying their bills to GSA, to make sure that we can continue to fund their operations. We also run a vendor network, to where we don't have in-house mechanics and body shops anymore. The federal government's gotten out of that business, and so we rely on Walt's Tire Factory, or Point S here in town, Les Schwab here in town, or CarStar Collision here in town, that can do, their vendors with GSA, and they can do all of that work for us, and then we pay them. But we work with them to make sure that they follow the rules and regulations that need to be followed, to make sure that that work is good, sound work. So we manage that vendor network, and then we help with the agencies in regards to maintenance and repair assistance. It's really a big job, and if you love cars, it is a great field to work in, because you get to put your hands on the cars. You also are behind a computer and dealing with customer service, taking care of people, making sure that they're well taken care of. It's a really interesting career field that spans so much in regards to just a vehicle. If you think of a real estate broker, really what we do is, where a real estate broker is going to help you figure out what kind of house you want and help you market or find that house. And then they're going to help you get into it and help you buy it and work out the financials and put you in touch with the title company and things like that. And then likely, if you get to the point that you want to sell that house, they're going to be the ones that are going to work with you again. You're probably going to go back to the same one. They're going to work with you again on selling your house and getting that out of your hands and getting money back in your pocket. So we essentially do that exact same thing, but we do it with vehicles. Anything from a small little sedan, a Toyota Camry or Toyota Corolla, all the way up to 20-ton dump trucks and semis and tractor trailers.
Okay, you cut out there for a little bit, so hopefully all of there was a little dead time on my part, so hopefully you guys continued on. How many people do you have on your team?
I've got 11 people that work directly for me. So I've got 3 in Boise, Idaho. I have 2 in Richland, Washington, and I've got 6 in the Vancouver office.
Okay. And what do they like? What is their, so you're above them. So like, what do they do on a daily basis? Like, what is your communication with them? What is your interaction?
So right now they're pretty independent. The fleet service representatives, that's what they are. It's very independent work. I kind of oversee the metrics and oversee the numbers to make sure that they're getting their work done. And I help them. I'll say I'm the bulldozer that clears the roadblocks for them. If they're having problems with an agency and they need some higher level support, if they're having problems with a vendor that's wanting to charge too much for a repair, if they are, if they're at some kind of a roadblock, that's where I get to step in and then help them help clear those roadblocks, because I've got a little bit, I'm up here, they're here, and I can come in and help pave that way for them. Also, I look out for their development, their professional development. Um, I get I get people that join my team anywhere from that maybe they're starting a brand new second career, maybe they've done 20 years of military service and they're retiring and they're looking to start a second career. And so I get people from, in their mid 40s, early 50s that join my team. I get people that are 20, 22, 23 years old. You don't require a college degree to come in as a fleet service representative. They do look for experience working with vehicles. So I've hired people that have worked as customer reps at an enterprise rent-a-car or at a car dealership, or as a service tech or service rep at a car dealership or body shop. So all those types of people come into GSA Fleet to be fleet service representatives.
Okay.
But then making sure they're developed and get training. And if they want to grow professionally, I help get them that training as well.
Awesome. That's cool. Okay. Question. Are there any cars that an agency is not allowed to buy? So, like if I came in and I worked for a governmental agency and I really wanted a Mercedes SUV, can I get a Mercedes SUV?
So we fill needs based on your mission, not the type of vehicle that you want.
Okay.
So can you get a Mercedes SUV? No, you can't. Can you come and tell me I want a Mercedes SUV? Sure. And I'm going to tell you, here's your Ford Explorer. So we got a couple regulations that we have to follow when we're getting vehicles. All of our vehicles, our national office, our central office back in DC, actually puts together contracts with the vehicle manufacturers. So we have contracts with Ford, FCA, which is Fiat Chrysler, they make Dodge, and Chevy. And then we actually have, for vehicles that are assembled in the United States, we can still purchase those, like Toyotas, Subarus, and even some of like Kias and Hyundais, where they have the majority of the assembly in the United States. We can get them under the Buy American Act, but we're required to buy, the federal government has to buy American. So there has to be a certain percentage of assembly or manufacturing on those vehicles that happens in the United States for them to be able to be purchased by the federal government. So if you tell me I want a Mercedes SUV, hey, that's great. I'm glad you want a Mercedes SUV. So what you're telling me, we take that and we translate it. What you're telling me is you need to haul 5 passengers around. You need a little bit of cargo capacity. You need all-wheel drive or 4x4. I've got a Ford Explorer. I can get you a Ford Explorer that's going to work just fine for you, or a Chevy Trailblazer. We can get vehicles like F-150 Raptors, Dodge Power Wagons, if that's what your agency mission dictates you need. So Forest Service is a good example of some of those that might need that. Bonneville Power Administration, where they're working on electric transmission lines up in the mountains, they might need something that's a little bit more off-road capable that can get them up there in those mountains.
How long do you keep? So when you buy, so like, let's say I'm one of your people and you're like, you're getting a Ford Explorer. Do you buy a brand new 2021 Ford Explorer, or how do you get like the vehicle once you know what it is that they need?
So we actually, again, we use those contracts and we put together an order. So yes, right now I'm actually right in the middle of our acquisition season where we're actually buying new vehicles. We do run things on a life cycle. And it depends on the type of vehicle that you have and how it's built, essentially, on what that life cycle looks like. Typical gasoline vehicles and trucks we keep for anywhere between 5 and 7 years, and then we send them to an auction house. Diesel vehicles we keep for 10 years, just because the lifetime is a little bit longer, and the payback period that we need to have to make those smart buys that's just what it works with diesels. And then certain specialty vehicles like over-the-road buses and things of that nature, we might keep for 15 or 20 years.
So are you guys looking into buying more electrical vehicles now and being economically friendly, or is that?
Absolutely. We're actually one of the key drivers, and in President Biden's orders that he's put out recently, he actually mentions GSA Fleet by name because we are the big provider And we do a lot of electric vehicles or hybrid electric vehicles, or even alternatively fueled vehicles, like vehicles that use E85 or are set up to run B99 biodiesel. So there is a big push to electrify the vehicle fleet. The main problem with electrifying the vehicle fleet at this point is the infrastructure needed and the capabilities of those vehicles. Typically, they can only go 200, 250 miles on an electric charge before you got to stop and plug those things in for 45 minutes to an hour, where you can go 250, 300 miles in a gasoline vehicle and stop in for 5 minutes, fill up a tank of gas, and go for another 250, 300 miles. So depending on the agency mission, if it's short trips around town, electric vehicles are great solutions, and we can get them those electric vehicles. Chevy Bolts, plug-in electric hybrids like a Chrysler Pacifica, and even the Ford's got some plug-in hybrid. I can't think of the name of the vehicle right off the top of my head. The C-Max has a plug-in electric hybrid variant as well. And those are the ones we try to push vehicles that are economical and smart purchases that can be used in a variety of different ways.
Awesome. So before we had started talking about your office space. Do you want to share that with us?
Absolutely. Let me click through. This is actually, I'm in the process right now of renovating my office, or at least getting new furniture. This is a rendering of exactly what my office is going to look like when the furniture comes in and gets replaced. You can see I've got a manager's office in the bottom, kind of the bottom middle of the picture, or bottom right if you actually laid the drawing flat. And then you've got workspace in the middle for my 6 employees. I've got a temporary station over here right by these little privacy couches, to where if someone comes in, say one of my employees from Boise has to come into the Vancouver office, I've got a workstation that I can set them out at without disrupting any of the other employees. We've got some conference room space. We've got some private meeting space, to where if one of my employees has to have a private conversation with a customer, or if a customer comes in, they've got space that they can actually sit down and have a conversation.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you would like to share? Like, I know I saw some pictures of some cars. So what is like one of the biggest perks about your job that you love?
I love the idea of actually getting out in the field and actually taking care of the vehicles. So here's some examples. Up here, this Ford Fusion, in the top left corner of this slide, is an accident that happened. It was a fender bender. The driver actually ran into somebody, so it was their fault. We end up covering the repairs to the vehicle. I actually total a lot of vehicles, where we just send them to salvage, or send them to auction as a totaled vehicle. We do work with where maybe an agency actually bought their own vehicles. The picture of the gentleman that's got the screwdriver, or the drill putting the license plate on, that was actually the Bureau of Reclamation in Klamath Falls, Oregon. They had 28 vehicles that GSA didn't provide them. They had bought them themselves, and they came to GSA and said, "We want to be one of your customers because it makes sense financially for us. And our vehicles are starting to get old, and we don't have the capital to replace them." So we do what's called a consolidation, where we essentially buy their vehicles from them, give them that money, and then we turn them into GSA vehicles and then put them on a replacement cycle. So this is when we actually got to go down to Klamath Falls, Oregon, spent 3 days down there inspecting and taking on 27 vehicles from the Bureau of Reclamation. They handle irrigation and dams and things of that nature, down in the Southern Oregon area. Here in the middle, where you see, that's my whole entire team. That's actually down at the National Guard Gunnery Complex outside of Boise, Idaho. We provide vehicles to the range control and range maintenance team down there. So they're using a lot of 4x4 vehicles, going down, maintaining tank targets, clearing tank lanes, and making sure that electrical services to run tank ranges and tank targets for the actually multiple National Guard units and international teams that come in and train at that gunnery complex, for the military. And so we got an opportunity to go down there and see what they do see their mission firsthand while a unit was going through gunnery. And if you've never been around when an M1 tank is firing rounds downrange, it is definitely a sight to see.
I'm sure it
Um,
is. Sometimes we get our buildings shake a little bit here when Fort Lewis is practicing. So, I mean, I don't think I've experienced it completely, but sometimes it gets pretty loud around here. So,
yeah. And then over here, I do support VA medical centers. This is a brand new kneeling bus for shuttle services between the Vancouver Veterans Hospital and the Portland campus that they have as well. They've got a campus in Vancouver, Washington, a campus in Portland, Oregon, and they shuttle patients back and forth depending on the services that they need. So this was a brand new bus that we had delivered to the VA Medical Center in Vancouver, Washington.
that's very cool.
So, and here's just another example of some of the stuff, some of the vehicles that you see. The Kia that you see there, yes, Kia stands for Killed in Action. As you can see, this one had a transmission line cooler that the hose on the transmission line cooler broke and spewed transmission fluid onto a hot catalytic converter, which caused the thing to spontaneously combust and catch fire. And you can see, I actually got to work with the forensic investigator from Kia. He's the gentleman that's there behind the door in that picture, and work with him. And just a few of the other vehicles that you can see. Here's a Dodge Power Wagon up in the top left corner. This is at an auto show. This is one of the upfit vehicles. So we can get the vehicle and then work with a vendor to get upfitted if an agency had a need for a law enforcement agency, perhaps Department of Homeland Security or the FBI. If they needed something, we can get vehicles like that and get them modified and upfit for those specific missions. The bottom left is an example. We send our people to training classes at Southern Illinois University. We've got a great partnership with them. This is at Southern Illinois University. This is a drag car that they built. I think it's kind of cool. It's just some of the things that we get to see and you get to put your hands on as a fleet service representative or as an FMC manager.
Awesome. So we have about a little over 8 minutes left. Kathy, or Miss Hicks, are there any students in the way watching that would like to ask questions?
I have 2 people in there, and so far I have no questions.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that.
If you're watching and you're a student and you'd like to ask a question, feel free and we'll let you get back to the presentation here.
Yeah. I think, lastly, as we get towards closing out, I think one of the most important things about having a good job and being a government employee is giving back and giving back to the community. I've been volunteering a lot of my time since 2006, basically. Almost 15 years now that I've been doing this, and it's important to me. And I don't do it just for my kids or anything like that. My kids are out of high school, graduated, long gone, but I've been working with the Yelm community and Yelm schools for, again, almost 15 years now, in building youth athletics and just a stronger community. So these are just a few pictures over the years of the things that I've done giving back. I think one of my favorites is you can see 78 running onto the field through the youth football tunnel down in the bottom middle of the picture. That's on the brand new turf field. I actually helped write a grant with Rob Hill, the athletic director for Yelm High School, helped write a grant from the Thurston County Youth Football League, and our proposal to rent that space from Yelm School District to play youth football games and youth cheer events, to be able to do that. So, the community providing those kinds of letters really helped us get that $250,000 grant from the Seattle Seahawks and the NFL. An opportunity down in the bottom right corner. We've got a great relationship with the University of Washington. So we get kids to go up on, it's Husky Youth Sports Day. We get discounted tickets, get an opportunity to get down on the field. You don't really get to meet the football players per se, but you get to get down on the field, and we got to see the Dubs, the University of Washington Husky He's actually the Husky. One of my other favorites is this bottom left corner when Yom High School went to the state playoffs. Well, not this last fall, but the fall before that, or I suppose, yeah, 2018, when we
Yeah.
went and played in Kennewick. We stayed. Yom Tornado Youth Football and Cheer actually went over, and we were able to get catered dinner for the whole entire football team and staff. And we were able to. We went over and actually served it, provided it, put it together to feed the whole entire football team. So things like that, where my job and my career gives me an opportunity to give back, to help, bring the community together and put things together. Imagine that those little young cheerleaders in that bottom center picture, when they look across the way and see those high school varsity cheerleaders looking at them, and they're like, that's my mentor, that's who I want to be. And you can see this is an older one, Jeff Bullion there in the middle, the Yom High School graduate, working with a kid after a football game. They were buddies. He was the high school football player paired with a kid in fourth grade or third grade, I think, at that point in time. So just those types of things, helping foster those relationships and build those relationships. No matter what you do in your career, you should always look to give back a little bit and remember how you got where you're at. And if you get a job, something like mine, that gives you that opportunity to do those kinds of things, probably more than some others, definitely do it. It's a highly rewarding experience.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Andrew, so much for your dedication to our community and youth football here. I know a lot of kids really appreciate it, and it is something that Thurston County does well for our youth. So last question to wrap it up. If you had to give advice to your former self as a senior in high school, what advice would you have wanted to hear?
Don't quit. Don't give up. And chase the opportunities. Opportunities are going to present themselves to you throughout your whole entire life. And when you see those opportunities, go after them, explore them, chase them. Don't just poo-poo them or shut them down because you think, that's not for me. Take a look at it. I never would have thought that I would be where I'm at right now. Just education-wise, career-wise, if I hadn't chased some of those opportunities. Somebody came to me when I was a young private in the Army and said, hey, did you know that the Army, while you're on active duty, has tuition assistance, and they'll pay 75% of your tuition if you go to college? And I was like, really? And I was 17 years old, sitting in South Korea, and started taking English 101 classes with the University of Maryland. They had a campus, or a satellite campus, in South Korea to serve the U.S. Army. So I think, just when I got told that, I was like, wow, this is great. Absolutely. Now, granted, the Army now pays 100% tuition assistance for soldiers while you're on active duty. So seize those opportunities and chase them, go after them. Education is a great thing, whether or not it's in college. It doesn't matter. In my opinion, education is education. So just because it's attached to a college degree, in my mind, that's irrelevant. I'm going to look at your experience when I'm looking to hire somebody, and how you carry yourself and how you present yourself and present the knowledge that you've attained.
Awesome. Well, that ends on a great thought. Thank you so much for joining us today for our second Professional by Pathway Career Exploration. And I wish you the best of luck and have a great rest of your week.
All right. Thanks, Katie. And thanks Kathy.
Andrew. Bye.
Thank you.